Back in the day, Maxis, the creators of SimCity, had the market on management sims cornered. City management wasn't enough for you? Try Sim Planet. Planets and cities, a little too chaotic? Sim Farm is for you. Want to get even smaller scale than farms? SimAnt was there for you. I mean, I joke about it now, but they really went ham on the management sims. Sim Town, Sim Theme Park, Sim Copter, Sim Fast and Furious. I'm only really scratching the surface of this huge iceberg. One of the many games Maxis created, and one that I played religiously back in my younger days, was simtower. As far as games go, it was pretty open-ended. There was no real aim to the game except to build your tower however you wanted to. The end goal was whatever you wanted it to be. There was a star rating system, which I assume was added to give some sense of completion to your newly created tower, but beyond that, your point was to use the starting budget given to you to set yourself up for profits and then build from there. Enter Project Highrise, the spiritual successor to simtower. Project Highrise one-ups its predecessor right out the gate by giving you a long list of scenarios to follow that have several clear end goals and various kinds of challenges and obstacles. The game awards you medals for reaching these goals, and earning medals unlocks new scenarios, which gives you plenty to do over the span of your time in Project Highrise. Just like in simtower, you build floors and basements, and into that empty space you slot elevators, offices, apartments, hotel rooms, casinos, amenities, service, event space, so on and so forth, until you have a fully functioning tower and are making profit enough to continue to expand at a safe rate. Building too quickly is often the downfall of many tower builders in Project Highrise because one mistake early on can easily break you. As a bonus, Project Highrise also has Steam Workshop integration. I didn't use too many of these, mostly unique or reskinned restaurants. There is one item I'll suggest acquiring that will save you a lot of time and hassle: the Combo Closets Pack. You see, in Project Highrise, one of the micromanagement aspects of the game is to ensure your tower has plenty of electricity, water, gas, air conditioning, and other services that tenants and hotel guests will surely demand. In order to properly give these things to your tower, each floor needs closets. There's 2 closets though, one for electric, phone, and cable, the other for water, gas, and air conditioning. Combo closets give you a single item that functions as both, costs the same as both, and covers the same footprint. It's just a nice time saver. And really, while we're on the topic of micromanagement, that's practically the name of the game. There's much more micromanagement involved in Project Highrise than there ever was in simtower, which makes Project Highrise a more complicated game, for better or worse. In terms of graphics, the game is very simplistic. The people wandering about and living in your tower lack real detail, and the apartments and businesses lack life and rapidly lose their appeal. It's like each room you place in your building is a kid's construction paper diorama he made at the last minute. Project Highrise's music is the most bland and inoffensive of tracks, which is great news for people who want to play the game with their own music on. You're not missing anything here. Of course, no game is without its issues, and Project Highrise has a lot of them. For example, the aforementioned abundance of micromanagement, which quickly becomes frustrating and makes you wish there was a faster way to do it. Like a system where you could choose to pay for lines to spread throughout the building each time you put down the correct closets would have cut a big part of the micromanagement out of the game. It's really easy to forget to put down the correct lines when you build new areas to your tower, and so you wind up wasting money when you just don't pay attention and tenants move out in anger without electricity or other amenities. Another aspect of the game that really grated on me was the requirements for rooms. Instead of simply tying access to these rooms to prestige and leaving it at that, Project Highrise also demands in many cases that you have certain numbers of shops, services, and restaurants. Fulfilling service requirements is as easy as putting down the correct service room somewhere in your tower, but in many cases, the game demands shops and restaurants and get really cryptic about it, refusing to tell you how many or what kind you need. This lack of information makes advancing through a tower in Project Highrise frustrating because you'll spend a lot of time building shops and restaurants until you realize that the game requires very specific kinds of these rooms. like restaurants that serve breakfast and lunch and dinner, cafes or bars of varying sizes, or shops that sell electronics, food, clothes, and so on. Normally that wouldn't be a big issue, except some of the more luxurious rooms require more than several specific restaurants and shops, so you'll be building those blindly until the game finally lets you build what you want to build. I think in this aspect, Project Highrise fails to meet its predecessor. There's a lot of things that Project Highrise does great compared to SimTower, but SimTower has a greater amount of freedom while still challenging you. And unfortunately, if the developers were looking to SimTower for inspiration, this is something they completely missed. That includes in-game events, good or bad, which are usually completely inconsequential compared to SimTower's more rewarding or tense in-game events. Though I'd have been willing to overlook it if the game's many scenarios didn't require you to do a lot of waiting. Many of the scenarios drop a tiny tower on you with a few rooms and services already in them, and restrict what you can build in order to meet the scenario's goals. In many of these scenarios, the game basically demands you do a lot of waiting in order to get money to continue to build. You can take out loans, yeah, but if you're not focusing purely on making profit with your loan money, you're setting yourself up for failure. Ultimately, Project Highrise is one of those games that make you flip between bored and frustrated, though more bored than frustrated when you get hours into building your tower and you realize that you're not even close to finishing the scenario you're on. Not to say that the much lauded SimTower wasn't without its flaws, but it was easier to ignore those flaws because the game didn't demand as much from you as Project Highrise does. Project Highrise is the tower management sim for people who love micromanagement and strategy in their tower building. It's currently $20, but it gets dirt cheap during sales. Oh, and if you're curious about the DLC, I recommend the Las Vegas DLC, which adds some of the more meaningful content to the game, like hotels, casinos, events, and show venues. The rest, in my opinion, don't add enough to justify their base price, but are worth picking up while on sale since they wind up being pennies on the dollar. I managed to pick up the main game and all the DLC for around $12 during the recent Steam summer sale, so that's not a bad deal. Thanks for reaching the top with me. If you're looking for more Chunky Beef, don't forget to subscribe. We also have social media accounts, links in the description below. See you soon.